speak to you on this day, at this place, because our nation is in the midst of a reckoning, specifically with the persistence of slavery. I'm the Youth Lead Organizer for the Abolish Slavery National Network, a national coalition fighting to abolish constitutional slavery and involuntary servitude in all forms for all people. Quote, we envision a United States where all people, without exception, are free from slavery and involuntary servitude, and where all people are protected by their state and federal constitution. Yet, this is not the reality, and that is why I joined ASNN in the first place. As a white girl, I understand that I will never have to experience what being Black in America is. I will never have to experience my whole entire life in the criminal justice system, within a system that is slavery. I know that my job is to support the work of those who have been impacted by everything that I speak about, not to silence and not to drown out. I'm constantly learning, which is one of the reasons why social justice is so important to me. Generally, I've always been passionate about social justice, which has been further exacerbated by living in a politically active household and by reading Just Mercy in 2019. Growing up with parents that have stressed the importance of empathy, the acknowledgement of privilege, and the urgency of action, it has led me exactly to this point. As soon as I came to realize that DC still had slavery, I knew that I had to act. I could not proudly tell people that I lived in DC, the DC area, knowing that slavery still existed. As many of you know, DC falls under the jurisdiction of our federal government, meaning that we do not have our own state constitution, meaning that we have no wiggle room with our laws and amendments. By definition, we fall under the 13th Amendment, the same 13th Amendment that allows for slavery. In essence, the 13th Amendment states that we cannot have slavery except for, quote, punishment of a crime whereof the parties shall be duly convicted, end quote. So slavery, just in our criminal justice system. ASNN has fought for years to get rid of this in all states, as well as a federal amendment called the Abolition Amendment. This amendment, proposed by Representative Nikema Williams of Georgia and Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon, would officially prohibit the use of slavery except and involuntary servitude for punishment of a crime. This effort is ongoing and has been supported by the work ASNN has done in individual states. So far, we have abolished slavery in 7 states, with even more on the ballot this year. While DC, as you know, is not a state, that does not mean we are exempt from action. We can use the uniqueness of DC to our advantage by passing a sense of the council. With this sense of the council, we can affirm not only DC's support of the Abolition Amendment and the abolition of slavery in the district, but we can commit DC to human rights and further action on it. Across the country, incarcerated people are working with little to no pay under the threat of punishment. In Louisiana, for example, incarcerated individuals work in cotton fields, supervised by men on horseback. If they don't work, they may be forced into solitary confinement. This is the case across many other states as well. Even though the system is different in DC, the framework of slavery still persists. Incarcerated people in DC work for about $32 a month, which translates to about 14 cents an hour for a 7-day, 8-hour work week. If they refuse to work, they also suffer consequences like loss of social visits, canteen privileges, phone calls, parole, probation denials, etc. This is a human rights issue also compounded by a racial one. As the DC prison population, or the DC prison system, is 95% Black, almost double the population in DC, which currently sits at 45%. DC is the heart of the United States of America, the heart of the so-called freest nation in the world. As the U.S., we stand for human rights, we stand for liberty and justice for all. However, at our core, we fail to fulfill it. With a sense of the council, we have the opportunity to not only support human rights, but bring fire to the abolition movement and stand with our fellow states that have abolished slavery completely. We have to think collectively about what DC represents, what DC stands for, and with this sense of the council, we can make it clear. I'd like to finish with a quote from the great abolitionist Ernestine Rose. If you allow one single germ, one single seed of slavery to remain in the soil of America, that germ will spring up. That noxious weed will thrive, and again stifle the growth, wither the leaves, blast the flowers, and poison the fair fruits of freedom. Because of the exception clause in the 13th Amendment, we breathe that poison today. Thank you.